Welcome to Bottom Line Sports Talk. I'm George Abraham. You know my partner, Albert Campman. We are honored to have a very special guest, the athletic director at YSU, Ron Strollo. Ron, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Ron, it's so exciting to have you. We always have lead-ins on our show with YSU or high school sports. So those are the two that we handle all the time. And doing our research, you're a YSU guy. And 14 years doing this and 19 years in the athletic department. Tell us your feelings really about YSU.
It means so much to me and my family. My wife is a track coach and is part of the YSU faculty. And we talked a little bit earlier. My mother-in-law worked in financial aid. My father was a volunteer football coach, and my son's on the basketball team. And my father-in-law was a punter for YSU. So the place means a lot to us, and we're fortunate to be able to be part of it, to kind of give back a little bit, and it's really rewarding to be around the young people.
Yeah, and when you serve others, as you talked about, that's how you get to be the value of a leadership role, and that takes us directly into your leadership role in getting Bo Pelini. Everybody watching the show will be so interested. Tell us a little tidbits about how that came about.
Obviously we, first it started with a very challenging decision whether to make a change with Coach Wolford, and clearly he had made a lot of progress with our program. But we have expectations, and expectations are pretty high, and some might say they're too high. But we want to make sure we continue to aim high, and felt first of all like it was time to make a change. And when you make a change like that in the coaching profession, this is really a good job, and sometimes you're not sure, but as soon as you make a move and that phone starts ringing, it becomes overwhelming. And we were fortunate in that sense that Coach Pelini reached out to us.
How about that?
So that started the conversation, and we kind of really moved slow with him. He had a lot on his plate and a lot of decisions to make for his family and to do what's right. And, so we kind of put him kind of aside, but continued the conversation and moved on really with the rest of our search.
Well, a lot of people would be surprised. We had spoken coming in. You were involved with Coach Stoops the last time.
Right.
I don't think people realize, possibly local, the magnitude of this job nationwide.
Yeah, I think it's real similar. We were involved with Mark Stoops last time until he got involved with the Florida State defensive coordinator's job. So in some sense, I felt like I'd already kind of gone through it, and you understand it, more and more every time, with that experience. And it was just trying to get Bo to the point where he felt comfortable with us, and we felt comfortable with him, and he felt like it was the right decision for his family.
Well, football's been so big at YSU, and Coach Tressel being a major part of that. By the way, he's going into the Hall of Fame. That's quite a tribute to him right now.
Yeah.
But I think the Youngstown name is synonymous with big time football, and your expectations, talking about expectations. But it also draws some names that some people in the country might not know about.
Yeah, no, clearly we had a great pool to pick from. So if it wasn't Coach Pelini, it was going to be someone really, really talented. So, after the first week or two that we got into it, we felt really good about, where we were going to end up when it was all said and done.
The Missouri Valley, such a, here you had two teams play for the national championship.
It's amazing.
My buddy called me and said, "That's the greatest game I've ever seen." He's adopted North Dakota State. I have no idea why. But what
they win all the time.
Yeah, well, that too. That's not about the Yankees, right? But what I'm saying to you is, like, when you have a certain win figure in mind and such, how much tougher is it? Like Coach Wolford going into the year, you're thinking to yourself, well, we have to do such and such, make the tournament, whatever. How do you do that when that league's so darn tough?
And that's really where you have to sit back and and ask yourself, where are our expectations, and are they realistic, and are we providing the right resources? And we really feel like we are. And really, Eric's last 4 years, you could look at one play or two plays in that whole season that could have put us in the postseason. And ultimately, we weren't successful on those plays. And close games come down to a couple plays here and there. We need to win those plays.
Yeah, it was a constant overlap of things happen like that, though, and that had to go through your mind. See, that's what I'm saying. If you saw something, but it always came down to the last 3 games of the year. Just give us one of those. And so I do see where you're coming at with that. You talked about they do have great facilities. Tell us a little bit about and I think that's been one of your greatest tributes. The facilities that you put together since you've been there. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, we've put great facilities together,
Okay.
and that's taken the community and our campus and our board of trustees and our president, and we've been fortunate to be able to put plans together and put them in front of donors or our administration, and they've bought into it. And fortunately, a lot of people see what we've done either to Stambaugh Stadium or the indoor facility or the facilities across the street. But I feel even better about the things we've done internally with the locker rooms and the training rooms and stuff like that our student athletes see and use on a day-to-day basis.
That indoor facility, that
second
says
to none.
Texas.
Yeah.
Most teams have 50 yards,
Yeah.
70 yards. We were in there one day and we were looking. We said to each other, "Never seen a place like this."
Yeah, it's amazing, and we're blessed to have it, and we're using it every second of the day. We had over 1,000 high school athletes there last Saturday at a track meet. So with parents and stuff, we probably had 2,000 to 3,000 people in that facility, and those are people. A lot of them weren't even from the local area. So those are people from Cincinnati and Pittsburgh and Detroit that are coming to our campus, coming to our city, and having a great experience. So.
Yeah, a couple of my kids have ran it. I still coach track, and a couple of my kids ran in it. Of all the things you've seen, you looked at it and went through it. Which one of those do you think, in your heart, you're most proud of? That when you say we've done, which one? Which one?
Right now, I would say the facilities across the street. I mean, that probably took us the hardest to get together. The indoor facility, there was a lot of interest because it was football and things like that. So there was a lot of momentum. But the facilities across the street, how much that changed that area of our city and our campus, and to have lights and kids playing all the time, whether it's intramurals or high school teams or us. I think it's really changed the perception of our campus.
Yeah, it has, and when you go over there, it's beautiful. I remember when I went there, you had 3 buildings, and you moved, but it is unbelievable. They're state of the art. You can talk about donors. Mm-hmm. How does that come about? Explain to George and I what happens there.
Fortunately, I think in my long time here, we've been able to develop some relationships, and my staff's done a wonderful job of developing those relationships and getting to know people and selling our story and getting our student athletes in front of them. And I think it's things that our donors believe in and see the impact that it's made to our campus, to our city, and to our student athletes, and when they have an opportunity to be around our student athletes, it makes them feel good.
I like the word impact. You can impress somebody from far away. Impacting is relationships. That's what it's all about. I had a great relationship at YSU. You had a great relationship at YSU. Explain to me how in these championships, I think you had 6 last year. Tell me the relationships of the coaches with the kids at YSU.
Yeah, our coaches have done a wonderful job, and I think as time has gone on with the facilities, and we've been able to bring in some really talented coaches who've been able to bring in some talented athletes, and they just have a great working relationship with our coaches. They have a respect. It's a mutual respect. Sometimes they gotta get hollered at.
That's what happens.
Sometimes you get a pat on the back, and I think there's a respect there.
I think what happens, and we talk about this in the high school level too, a lot of times people only see football and basketball. Mm-hmm. So they say, "How are the sports teams down at Seneca Valley?" And my buddy says, "Not doing so." He says, "Coach," he said, "we won wrestling." And he just starts naming them. But what do the people look at? Football and basketball. I have 2-parter. One, when this decision goes way back to playing the FCS football and being in the horizon in basketball, what goes into the decision? Because my buddies will call me and they'll go, "How come they don't play in a MAC.
In a
MAC.
Oh, yeah. Well, and, a lot of those decisions are institutional decisions.
Okay, yeah.
And, our institution, size-wise, is much different than Kent State or Akron.
Explain that, because I like to know about that.
Yeah, I would think if you look at Kent, Akron, they're probably about 30 to 35,000 students.
Okay.
And we're at about 13,000 students.
There's a big right there. Okay.
So it comes down to resources and some things like that. So we spend about 13 or 14 million on athletics, and a lot of that is scholarships. But the Mid-America Conference schools are spending $25 to $30 million
Double.
a
So
year.
twice.
Wow.
So
So
we're
really,
looking at least double.
We didn't know that. That's
Well,
amazing.
unfortunately, you don't know it because when the ball's rolled out,
Exactly.
our kids fare pretty well.
And they compete,
Oh, they
which
more
makes
than
it.
compete,
Slippery
yeah.
Rock does the same thing in
Yeah.
their league. He has 4 Scullies. Indiana has 10. He takes them to the wire every year, and people say, "Well, what's all they need?"
For I would think for all of our sports, you wouldn't even recognize the amount of resources difference between a Mid-American Conference school and our.
Most of the
budget.
fans wouldn't either.
They wouldn't
Do you
recognize
understand?
it when that ball's rolled out. I mean, we played Kent State in men's basketball.
Oh, it goes down-
and
always
we're
goes down
clearly
last
in a-
4 minutes all the
yeah,
time.
we're clearly in a rebuilding year. And we had a shot at beating them at the end. And if you looked at what Kent spent on their coaches' salaries or everything
Yes.
else compared to what we spent, I think you'd be really impressed with what our coaches have been able to do.
Yeah, we're very close with Coach Slocum. I mean, when Coach Wolfer, we really got to know him, and that's another thing. Your coaches come out.
Yeah.
Coach Wolfer's been on the show. Coach Slocum's been on. Now you're that builds relationships too. When you're willing to come on a show that is not, ABC, but a lot of fans are watching, and they love to hear about YSU, Coach Ronnie. And that's a tribute to you. The grades of the school. How about that? Is how that's taken off too. That means that shows you're getting great kids.
Yeah, and and some of it's due to some NCAA rules changes and some things like that. So it's harder to be eligible when you're a freshman, and we're getting great students.
You're not kidding.
Kids that do a wonderful job academically, organizing their time, doing all the things that you hear that are good things that come out of sports. And we're blessed with the type of kids. We got very mature kids that are coming out to us, and our coaches do a wonderful job. And Marilyn Abruba and Marty Hyden, our academic advisors, do.
Oh, you have 2 academic advisors.
Too. We used to have 4,
No.
and
Wow.
due to some budget cuts, we dropped down to 2. But just to show, how good the students we have, and how good both Marilyn and Marty are, and how much importance our coaches place on it.
Now, 3.17, it's unheard of in my mind. I mean, we were
Yes.
waiting every time the grades come out to see who was playing next week. We had terms at Shippensburg my first year there, and right above Thanksgiving, half the team was gone.
Oh, yeah.
It was unbelievable. You think you're getting a better student? Is it the support that you offer, or a combination?
I think it's a combination of everything, but we're clearly getting better students. When I first started, whether it was football or basketball, you were always nervous, like who was going to be eligible next year. Those things don't even cross your mind anymore.
Well, right now, I talked to you outside. If people on the outside, I talked about the Mancini fan with you, and they're big on wrestling and big on, but there's soccer, there's wrestling, there's lacrosse, all these sports. Are there anything in the works for ever going to other sports at YSU?
We're gonna be adding sports probably one every 3 or 4
So already
years.
something is work, okay.
But they'll be on the women's side of the ledger.
How about that? That's part
Title
of
IX?
Is it Title
Yes,
IX?
that's Title IX.
Okay.
yes.
So we still have some work to do. We've done a lot of work in those fields across the street, or some
big
of that
for it,
work.
yes.
But we'll probably add women's bowling here pretty soon.
How about that? How about that's a growing thing? It's amazing.
Yeah. And the thing that I like about it, there's not many sports you can add that you could start competing for a national championship
Instantly.
right away.
Just get 3
Yes.
bowlers.
So yeah, I mean, and as good as bowling is through this region, we're excited about starting that sport.
You should be. We
Yeah.
talk about bowling on here a lot. We say, hey, and again, and play at the state championship
Yeah,
in this area. They're
it's
all
unbelievable.
Yes.
So we're excited. We hope to hire a coach, quite honestly, here this spring, and get that thing start rolling next fall.
Are there? I know it's different, but let's say you hire a bowling coach. Is there a search committee for those things too, or is just football and basketball?
Well, there's a search committee in some sense. We'll obviously rely on experts that we feel are experts,
In that
whether
field.
that's nationally or in the area, or people that we know a lot.
Quick story. This reminds me. I did it this time. I tell Coach Slocum, I got a player for you up in Toronto. He's dunking on this guy. Here, I get him, and he finds out he shot somebody.
Oh, jeez.
I think, Coach, not exactly.
Yeah,
So you can't make a mistake like
No,
that.
you
Whoever
gotta be
you bring to
careful.
this board, you better have done your
Right.
vetting or whatever, because that'd be
No
disastrous, right?
question, no question.
Okay, let's go back to Coach Pelini because that's a big part of it. I saw he kept, I think, 5 assistant coaches, which is a lot for that. He must have saw something there that in those coaches. Tell us a little about the staff.
Well, clearly Eric did a good job hiring staff. I mean, our program has improved, and and I talked to Coach Pelini. I thought there was a lot of our current staff.
Did he ask you? That's what I'm saying. He asked you?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and the one thing you always, when there's coaching changes, it just doesn't affect that head coach. All those assistant coaches lost their jobs too on that same day.
Have to move and
so there's 15 or 16 people that on that day lost their jobs, and there's families that are involved with that. So the one thing I always promise is that the new coach, they'll have an opportunity to at least sit and sell their story to the new coach. And Coach Pelini did that right after his press conference. He went downstairs and spent the next 2 days.
There's an inner thing right there. He did it right away.
Right away. Within probably an hour after the press conference, he was meeting with our assistant coaches, and he was really impressed after watching film and getting to spend some time with some of our assistants that really felt like some of them were worthy of keeping on.
Yeah, worthy's the word, and you said they were that close all the time. So it isn't like you were 2-11, 2-11, 2-11. Say, let's clean this house, let's get out of here. Because some of those assistant coaches had to build relationships with some high school coaches in this area, and that's from Coach Pelini. I know he has the name in this area, but still not knowing the coaches straight out really helps with the assistants.
Well, and again, it's not what everyone thinks. First of all, and you're right, they already have relationships with current high school coaches. They know how to sell Youngstown State University. But the other side of it, what people don't think of, is you still have 120 or 100 student athletes here that have developed a relationship with those assistant coaches. So this is a dramatic time in their lives too. So to have some familiar faces is very helpful for those young people.
No, it's gigantic. Now, what is the time frame for Coach Pelini? I remember, I know nothing. Is he back in this area yet? He's still in Nebraska? Is he spring ball? What's happening with him now?
Right after he was announced, he spent about 2 or 3 days here, and then spent Christmas back in Nebraska. But I think it was the day after Christmas he was here and hasn't left.
Awesome.
So his kids have started school here. He's moved his family.
Are they going to Mooney?
The oldest son is at Mooney. So.
I like the odds of that, by the way. I like the chances of that. I talked to Bill Bourne, old timer. He was around. I checked you guys out when you were playing at Fitz, and when Coach Pelini was playing, he checked him out, and he was telling about going to a banquet that he was at and such. So this Youngstown, I don't think this is one of those jobs, and I say it rarely. I'm a lot of times I'm critical if they don't widen the search. But I think this is one of those, we talked before we come on, this is one of those special places where when it's in your heart, it's in your heart.
Right. And I think every search is a little bit different, but this is clearly one the last 2 times we've gone out. There's no reason not to hire a Youngstown guy for this job because there's so many good coaches out there.
Okay.
And I probably talked to 8 to 10 coaching candidates that all of them could do this job successfully, and all of them had Youngstown ties.
See that, and you thought that. Well, don't forget, we keep saying this. YSU is thought of in the upper echelon in the football world. That's what they're thought of. So you say expectations are high. So when Coach Pelini looked at this job, you're looking at something real different when you have a guy 19 years here, but then you have the president.
Yeah.
Who you can go right to. Right. What role did Coach Tressel have in this, or if he had any at all?
Yeah, he clearly had a role. I mean, whenever a coaching candidate comes and is interested in a job, and especially a football job, they want to know, is the AD a football guy?
Say yep.
and a lot of times they just want to know if the president even comes to athletic events, and clearly having a president that sat in that chair and knows how difficult it is and understands that is something I think that was something that interested Coach Pelini.
Those kids at UAB were very critical. They said they had never seen the president at a game.
And it's a shame.
That's not right. I mean, I don't know that he has to be at all the away games.
Right.
But that's not right that you're going to pull the plug on that and have never seen them play.
A lot of times, whether it's fans or sports talk shows or whatever, you lose track of why you're really doing this. It's for those young people. And, sometimes it always comes down to, everyone feels like it's wins and losses and those type of things. But, on a day-to-day basis, you're worried about these kids and their families and all the struggles they go through with boyfriends, girlfriends, or classes, or how to pay rent, or those type of things.
Yeah, they're 18 to 21-year-old. Yeah. This is a 30-year-old
right.
pro playing for.
Right.
So that's right, because that diploma means everything, and that's what got George and I both where we're at sitting on this thing because of education. And I really believe in the YSU diploma. It did great things for me,
yeah.
And I had a lot of kids from PA. I sent them over to YSU for that. when you talk about the education, and it's really big, did that come up in any of the conversations with Bo Pelini and knowing the importance of YSU kids? Because I think the system's probably sold that on him.
Yeah, no, he saw how well our kids were doing academically. But I'm going to be honest with you, they did even better at Nebraska, and he expects to do better.
How about
here.
that?
You know, I'm anxious to see. The one thing that, as he started reviewing our program, he thought there would be a culture shift. Is how much more importance he's going to put on academics. So
Good.
They had an unbelievable mark down at Nebraska.
Yeah, I did read about that.
Yeah, 9 wins a year too. I
Yeah,
mean, if there's no personality involved in that, then you're not reading between the lines. I mean, when somebody wins 63 games in 7 years, something's not right.
Yeah, so we're fortunate to have him.
I would think,
and he's going to do the right thing for the kids, and and academics clearly is going to be something that's on the top of his
we have
list.
about 6-7 minutes left. Talk about a budget. I was in places where I would have to, 6 new balls, 8 pairs of shoes.
Right.
Then I go to Butler, and they got money in the drawers, like from selling pop and stuff. I mean, how does it work at a place as large as yours, where you're into 7 figures and such? How does the budget work?
Yeah, it's and each sport's a little bit different.
Okay.
To be quite honest with you, obviously we're funding our football program to compete on a national level. So for me, you're always trying to keep pace of where the other schools are at and who you might what's your competition like, and so there's some things like salaries and things like that you want to make sure that your head coach has an ability to remain competitive. But there's some things that you just don't have a choice. Officiating fees go up every year. So there's some things there that are kind of mandated costs for you, and travel for the most part is mandated. But it's amazing the amount of money that you spend on officiating. You'd be shocked. Fans would be a little disgruntled if they knew how much we spend on officials. But we're probably spending just in men's basketball between $80,000 and $100,000 on officials.
Yeah, the money is astronomical. There's no question. Is there somebody over top of you? I know you're the athletic director and head. Is there like a board of trustees or somebody that looks into this stuff too?
Oh yeah, there's
how's
a board.
that work?
Well, there's a board of trustees,
Okay.
and then our president, and then I would fall in.
Now, do you get a lump sum where they say, Ron, here's X
Yeah,
divided?
For the most part, and then you have the ability to go out and fundraise and supplement certain things. So obviously, there's only so much the institution can do, and but your expenses are going up every year, so you have to go out and be creative and find ways to either cut those expenses or go raise the money in order to do it.
Yeah, I know. We talked to Coach Slocum on the show, and that's one of his proudest moments going out. And he's able to raise some money to keep things going. But
Right.
that's behind the scenes. That they don't know coaches do that to keep to make sure that everything is in place. As we look at basketball season right now, the boys and girls teams, they play in such great teams. We talk about football,
Right.
but nobody realized how the conference of the great basketball. You'll see Green Bay go to Syracuse and lose by 2. You'll see Cleveland. It's amazing the basketball play.
Right.
Talk a bit about that with us.
The competition level in the Horizon League is unbelievable.
That's what I'm saying. It's
And,
amazing.
I know. During one of Coach Slocum's years, we actually won more Mid-American Conference games out of season than we won Horizon League.
Yeah,
games.
the Horizons. When they rank those.
No, it's not. Yeah.
Yeah, Horizon's 9th and Mid-American 16th.
Right.
And people fall like
and
we
people
do.
don't recognize
Yes.
it all the time, and so it's a really high level, and you're dealing with all these institutions that are only funding basketball.
That's what I was. Yeah, tell us.
That's
so
what
interesting.
we had talked about that
That's interesting.
previously.
How's that
In other
work?
words, how do you compete when you're throwing out a top-notch football team and Butler
Right.
doesn't have it?
It's
for example.
it's really challenging. And I think that just says what a great job that Coach
Oh, no
Slocum's
question.
doing. And it's hard to balance those two things. And everyone knows the culture in this region of how important football is.
Yes.
And we came from a lower level in basketball, and and our budget was started off behind everybody else's in
question
men's
about it.
basketball. And he's done a wonderful job keeping us competitive and giving us a shot at every game that we're in every game.
Always,
and
always.
taking a shot at the big boys.
Yeah,
And
always.
We beat Georgia and some of those schools in the past.
Yeah, you went on the map when you beat Butler. That was
Right.
that was a big boost right away because people were calling YSU saying, "Wait a minute, this is the last team to beat the What did you do?" And it is. That football basketball thing is so unheard of compared to everybody else.
It's so different. It's amazing that you have to try to figure out what's fair, what's in the balance, because there's no comparison between the two leagues in either sport.
Yeah, all their money goes to basketball.
Right, and I think that trickles down to all of our programs. It's just not men's and women's basketball.
Okay.
And I think it just goes to show what a great job Brian Gorby's doing.
Oh, you're not kidding. All these coaches.
Yeah, all these coaches have done such a good job with lesser resources than our competitors.
Now, do you look at what your girls coach makes compared to the other teams? What Coach Slocum, or let's say Coach Pelini, do you look at their salary in relation to the other team?
Absolutely. You're constantly looking at those numbers and trying to fix them when you can. But clearly we have a Title IX gender equity plan that helps us keep our women's basketball salaries pretty competitive.
I think you have to do that, right? I don't think I don't think you have any choice in that one, Ron.
But it's been hard, to give Coach Slocum all the resources, to hire assistant coaches or to do those other things that the other schools in our league.
Yeah, they have a major advantage. There's no question. Well, last question I have for you, Ronnie. Where do you see? What's your major goal? If you have any goals or goal at all, looking down the interview, you've been here a long time,
right?
But you still have goals in your mind. Give us something that you like to see happen.
Yeah, I mean, clearly for us, all of our teams have done a great job, increasing their competitiveness. And, we finished second in the All Sports Trophy in the Horizon League. And clearly the goal would be we need to win that All Sports Trophy. And, I'm thinking we have a shot at it this year. I think we got a pretty good, exciting spring coming up for a lot of our teams. A lot of opportunities to win championships. And, that would be a great goal for
short term. That's a great short term goal. No question about it.
How about we have like a minute and a half? Question, your evaluation, or when someone sees the football team do well, or the basketball team, or the girls, or the baseball, do they look and say, "Oh, Ron Strollo's doing his job, we're good"? Or do they just do it when you lose and say, "Who do you hire? He got this jamoke in here and he can't coach"?
Hopefully it's a situation, if we're doing bad things, hopefully people just blame me and we move on. But clearly this isn't. I do the best job I can of trying to stay out of everyone's way, and I'm fortunate. We have a great staff. We get great support, from the community and from our campus, from our faculty, and our coaches do a wonderful job. And I would hope that when they see championships like they've been seeing, that they would say, "Hey, there's a good team over there."
1 minute.
I like that word, team.
All the sports, you're in charge of them all. Do you pop into the practice now and again? And if so, how often, and what are you looking for? You have about 90 seconds.
Yeah, the indoor actually has made it more difficult.
Okay.
Before, they used to all practice in the Stambaugh and the gyms, if you're familiar with the gyms at Stambaugh.
Sure, yeah.
Well, now they're all over the indoor. So I probably don't see as much of the practices, but clearly when there's a home event, I try to be as many of those as I can possibly be at. So whether it's tennis or baseball or softball or track and field or soccer, I'm not sitting at home while something's going on up here.
Last thing, parents. We assume that when they pack the car, that's the last we hear from them, but I have a feeling that it's not.
Well,
tell me such.
Well, the one thing we don't talk about is playing time.
Okay.
And to be honest with you, when you start dealing with parents, most of the time it's about playing.
Oh,
Sure.
Sure. And so you start every conversation of, well, I'm not going to get in a conversation about playing time. These coaches are trying to do the best they can do.
They're playing to win. They aren't playing your kid to win.
Their jobs on the line if they win or lose.
Exactly.
So, but if it's about the welfare, or if they think that their son or daughter is being mistreated, those are phone calls that sometimes come in, and usually there's other sides of the story, and it's hard for parents because now they're not living.
They were
at
the
home,
star, and
they were the star before.
Right.
Now they're off, and might be getting a different story from their parents.
Hey, thanks so much. We enjoyed the half hour, went so quickly. Invite you back anytime.
Anytime.
Coach Tressel, Coach Pelini, to have a free half hour, send them our way.
We'll send them our way.
All right, thanks again for watching Bottom Line Sports Talk.